Hello, everyone, and welcome to your Premier Injuries Daily Injury Roundup. Of course, I'm speaking ahead of Game Week 9, where we've already heard from three managers. Thomas Frank still to come, although I'm not expecting anything major from the Bees boss. But before we get into that, just a reminder, myself and Jason will be back on Friday around about 2:15, 2:30 with our predicted lineup piece. We'll be going live with that. So keep your eyes on the socials to find out when exactly that time is. Like I say, we've got 16 press conferences. It's going to be very busy. So we're hoping it's going to be around about 2:15 to 2:30. So keep your eyes and ears peeled with that one. But back to Thursday. We heard from Frank Lampard, and we've had a mixed injury update from the Toffees boss. First and foremost, we're expecting Jordan Pickford to return between the sticks for Everton. Asmir Begovic kept a clean sheet last time out in the 1-0 win over West Ham, but the England #1 keeper has recovered from a thigh problem, and we expect him to probably be the only one of two changes from last time out. The other, of course, being Nathan Patterson, who was injured while representing Scotland. Seamus Coleman has been touted as a replacement at right back. Lampard talking about the Patterson injury, which we believe is a high ankle sprain. Initial suggestion from the club's website indicated that it would be around about 4 to 5 weeks. However, as that evaluations continue and assessments go on, Frank Lampard said it's maybe a little optimistic, so it could be stretched possibly to 6 weeks or beyond, which calls into question his availability before the World Cup in Qatar. Elsewhere, Dominic Calvert-Lewin is being considered for a return, and that's saying it's a return to the squad, not to the starting 11. I expect Neil Maupay to retain his place in that side. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, of course, has been out with a long-term knee ligament problem, and during the international break also suffered a minor setback, a groin tweak, which kept him off the training pitches for a little bit. So that might hold him back. Frank Lampard insists that he wants Calvert-Lewin to be in the best physical fitness and strength condition, and he wants him to return and ultimately, retain his place in that matchday squad, not return and then suffer a setback. So no risks will be taken with regards to that. Elsewhere in the squad, Mason Holgate, Ben Godfrey, Yerry Mina, Andros Townsend, all of those players remain on the sidelines, although Mina and Holgate could potentially return along maybe towards the latter end of this month. Arsenal, they provided an update with regards to Emile Smith-Rowe. Now, this is something that I had discussed maybe around 2 to 3 weeks ago with regards to these ongoing groin problems, the latest being a setback at Old Trafford when Arsenal suffered that 3-1 defeat to United. Well, a decision was taken after speaking to a specialist, and he has went under the knife to try and remedy that problem. Now, that's going to keep him out until December, hopefully a return to full training in December, and possibly a return to the Arsenal squad maybe after that World Cup in Qatar. So maybe around those fixtures, around that festive period, potentially Boxing Day. We were expecting some big news from their North London rivals ahead of the derby this weekend, but Antonio Conte remained very coy when asked for any news on his players. So what we do know, Dejan Kuvaletsky, he picked up a muscle problem playing for Sweden through the week. Return doesn't look great. However, I did suggest on social media that I would expect maybe Richarlison, Kane and Heung-min Son to be those three attacking players. So maybe Kuvaletsky, even if he is fit, may not be risked. Conte also went on to suggest that he won't be taking any chances with those players. They've got 13 games coming up in quick succession, and he said he's going to need his full squad to be able to cope with the demands of the game. Any decisions with regards to the players are going to be made until after the final session on Friday. So that means we won't have anything on Hugo Lloris. Of course, he missed the recent internationals for France because of a mild thigh problem. When asked earlier in the week, this was one that I thought that Lloris would recover in time. Like I say, if he was an outfield player, then maybe there are some issues. But being a goalkeeper, given his importance and good start of the season, I think he could maybe squeeze in that late, pass that late test, although there may be some kind of modified kicking, goal kicks, or maybe a lot of rolling out to fullbacks. One to watch, certainly. Elsewhere within that squad, Ben Davies, he missed out for Wales. But again, Clement Lenglet can play the left side of that three. Lucas Moura, we know, has been training with the squad since before the international break. We also heard from the Cherries and interim boss Gary O'Neill. Not much change in the treatment room, although Ben Pearson and Joe Rothwell are very close and almost there. Ryan Fredericks is back on the training pitches. He has progressed during that international break, but he's still, excuse me, he still isn't 100%. So whether he's included in that matchday squad remains to be seen. No time frame on Lloyd Kelly. That's an ankle problem that kept him out of the trip to St. James's Park. Looks a nasty one. Senesi, the Argentine defender, came in for him as a replacement up there. And of course, Bournemouth came away with a share of the spoils with a 1-1 draw. Elsewhere, we've had updates from Chelsea. They've confirmed that N'Golo Kante has returned to the training pitches following a hamstring problem. And also Edward Mendy. We know Graham Potter suggested that that was an ongoing knee problem, probably an overuse, overload problem, tendinitis. He's back on the training pitches, so it remains to be seen whether Kepa can nail down his spot again or whether Mendy comes back into contention for Newcastle. Problems in attack. It looks as if Alan Saint-Maxim's going to miss out. You know, we haven't had any official confirmation around Alexander Isak, but we're thinking maybe 2 to possibly 3 weeks for him. You know, and Chris Wood also, that looked like or sounds, reading between the lines, I thought that it could be a rib separation. You know, listening to what Chris Wood said, he heard that popping sensation, the pain when he tried to run. It's a blunt force trauma and also difficulty breathing. Again, that suggests that's maybe that the ribs actually came away from the sternum, the cartilage, and it could be conservative treatment. We could be looking at several weeks on the sidelines. All in all, that brings about maybe a start for Callum Wilson. He's been talking on his Footballers Football podcast. He's been working hard to get fit. He is ready. We just have to keep our fingers crossed that he does stay fit and available. Mitrovic, of course, Newcastle travelling down to Craven Cottage. Alexander Mitrovic picked up a couple of knocks during that international break. He has been on the score sheet, got 4 goals over those 2 games, a hat-trick, and then shook off a knock to score in his second game. But we're seeing post-match with his right ankle heavily taped, heavily bandaged with ice cold therapy on there. Now, he looked, like I say, it's difficult when you try to assess things post-match. Things can flare up, be quite painful. Fulham supporters will be hoping that it's nothing more than just a big knock, but it remains to be seen on the severity of that one. And finally, lots of questions with regards to Manchester United, namely Marcus Rashford. That was a hamstring problem that's kept him out in recent times. He did suffer a setback on the training pitches, and therefore there are no guarantees with regards to his availability this weekend. It's one that Erik ten Hag won't want to take any risks with, because we know high recurrence, high re-injury rate could potentially put him out for a lot longer. Anthony Martial, an Achilles problem, assessed on a game-week-to-game week basis, but looks highly doubtful. Harry Maguire, also a hamstring issue. And before I forget, Liverpool. Again, mixed updates from there. We've seen Ibrahima Konate back in full training, so he could be in contention. However, there are the Liverpool Echo did note that Diego Jota and also Nunes were absent from training on Thursday. They weren't part of the squad. Now, their last internationals were on Tuesday evening, so there's plenty of time to return with that. So there's question marks as to why they weren't available. Diaz was also not part of the group, but of course he was involved in an international later on, and that's more likely to do with his late return. So that's it for now. Thursday. Thanks for following. Any comments, pop them in the box below. And of course, you can always subscribe. We have lots of new content dropping all of the time. And don't forget to tune in on Friday afternoon when we go live with our predicted lineup piece and all of the latest team news. That's it for now.